What's up guys, Mikey here. I was thinking about the lost episode of SpongeBob, and I wanted to make sure I wouldn't be lost myself. But then I decided to go on a nature hike, and well, I'm lost. Maybe I should have bought a walking stick. The Sponge Who Could Fly is the episode where SpongeBob wants to fly with the jellyfish and faces many issues from all over the place while trying to do so. This episode aired on March 21st, 2003, and is the most viewed episode of the first 3 seasons of the show, coming in at roughly 7.64 million views on premiere day. And a big part of that is how it was marketed. On that fateful day, there was a marathon leading up to the premiere day, which featured a handful of big-name celebrities at the time appearing alongside Patchy the Pirate to help him look for the lost episode. It also featured a sweepstakes where the grand prize winner won a trip to Jamaica, $1,000 and 2 treasure chests, one containing SpongeBob merchandise and the other containing gluttony. And 500 people won a t-shirt based on the special. Pretty big fuss over an episode that only had an hour-and-a-half marathon leading up to it, and that was already released on home media 17 days before it aired on TV. This was heavily advertised as the lost episode, and it's even referred to that on some home media releases. Now, in terms of production order, this is the last 22-minute episode of the original series, while the last to air would be episode 106, Ugh. And it would have been the last had the series not continued in 2005 onwards. This is also the last episode where SpongeBob's creator Steven Hillenburg appears as this man in the treasure chest and as the voice of Potty the Parrot. Patchy, the kids are here! I'm sure that there is a process to making episodes of a show, but as somebody who is not familiar with that process whatsoever, I have to wonder if this episode was truly lost at some point while making it, or if the lost episode tagline was just used to gain some more publicity before it came out. I've seen some people still refer to this as the lost episode to this day. Now, odds are it probably was done to get some more attention, because as we'll see, this episode without the Patchy segments is, again, only 16 minutes long, so they need another 6 minutes to reach the 22-minute quota. Despite all the marketing that I didn't follow when this episode came out in 2003, I have a complicated relationship with this episode, one of the most dysfunctional ones from the first 4 seasons. There's a lot to talk about here, so let's stop wasting time and watch this episode to see why they decided to market it as a lost episode. Well, first of all, it's for money, and second of all, I don't have my portable DVD player here, so I don't know what to... Well, that's convenient. So the episode starts up, and the French narrator is talking about a never-before-seen SpongeBob episode recently discovered under a desk at Nickelodeon Studios, and all fans want to watch this lost episode. Patchy was to present the lost episode. Potty flushed him out of the shower, but Patchy said that he lost the lost episode, and that it was best to forget about SpongeBob. Heh! Good luck with that nowadays. A Remembering SpongeBob montage played showing various clips of SpongeBob from various episodes of the first 93 episodes. Patchy was upset about losing the lost episode and wishes he had a map to lead him to it. Then the map was thrown through the window and Patchy was delighted to have a chance to find it again. He and Potty set off on an adventure, passing various buildings and landmarks before needing to brave the 7 different trials at Monkey Lagoon, aka the kids' playground. It's true. I was basically a monkey in grade school. After the trials, Patchy dug the lost episode. In more ways than one. You stink! Patchy apparently didn't know what a VHS looks like, but ran home with the tape and got so excited just while waiting for the tape to load. The first thing we then see is about 90 seconds worth of walk cycles. After that, Patchy felt absolutely betrayed the way I did when my crush stopped being friends with me, got rid of all his SpongeBob merchandise, and ran away. But then the real lost episode started to load. Patchy rewinded all his actions to watch it. The SpongeBob portion of the episode starts up, and SpongeBob is jellyfishing, standing still before a jellyfish comes close, and he tries to catch it. But he misses and falls off the cliff and breaks apart before he puts himself back together. SpongeBob wishes he could fly with the jellyfish and sings a song about that dream. Then he remembers what his grandpa said about flying and decided to invent ways that he can fly. He has various plans that end up failing miserably, like building a plane that collapses when he tries to take off, flying in a bat suit where he ends up falling when his arms wear out, tying balloons to a lawn chair that floats away when he takes the brick off. Why can't he just try that method again? Just get on the lawn chair before taking the brick off. And tying himself to a kite being dragged by Patrick riding a bike, ending with the kite snapping with public ridicule included. SpongeBob soon discovered he was in the newspaper being called a f***ing nutcase for trying to follow his dreams and fly. As he walked through Bikini Bottom, other citizens laughed at him for trying to fly. SpongeBob said that they were laughing at him just for having dreams and trying to make them come true. But everybody else had unrealistic dreams that they couldn't fulfill and decided to try and murder SpongeBob. Yeah, I and some other classmates had problems with public speaking, and yet I was given the hardest time whenever it was my turn to give an oral report. They chased him off a cliff, and SpongeBob went in a truck of mud and then a truck of feathers, much to his misery, and the episode breaks for commercial. Oh, thank God. I need a break from that. And now I'm going to try to find my way home again. Oh, thank God. There's my house. Alright, I made it home. I'm not lost anymore. But now I need to finish the episode. When the episode comes back, SpongeBob got cleaned up and sadly accepted his flying dreams would never come true. As he got a call from Joe Mama mocking him, he put the hairdryer in his pants, which actually did give him the ability to fly, and he set off for Jellyfish Fields at once. The other Bikini Bottomites saw SpongeBob and were shocked he was actually able to fly. SpongeBob and the other citizens started to sing about SpongeBob finally being able to fly, but he was interrupted by Mrs. Puff's cries for help since her snail was up a tree. The branch snapped and SpongeBob saved her just in time.
Thank you, Birdman!
Mrs. Puff knows who SpongeBob is. Why did she call him Birdman? SpongeBob continued to sing and help his friends up in the sky all over Bikini Bottom, getting Mr. Krabs' dime off the roof, moving Patrick from a mine that he wasn't scared of, and saving Plankton from the kelp. Soon, the mysterious flying man and how he helps people were all over the news. How is SpongeBob mysterious? How is he not the most recognizable face in Bikini Bottom? The light in a lighthouse went out as Sailor Jenkins was headed for the shore. SpongeBob came and changed the light bulb right before Jenkins hit the shore, but then he hit a big rock and sank. Mr. Krabs came up and asked SpongeBob to help him with an emergency. SpongeBob was hesitant, but he agreed. Mr. Krabs asked SpongeBob to clean his garage, saying it's easier to clean a garage when you can fly. Well, he's not wrong. I haven't been able to properly clean my garage in years, and that's partially because I can't fly. After SpongeBob was done, his friends started asking him for much more ridiculous favors, mostly. And then the Bikini Bottomites are just too lazy to do anything themselves. Soon everybody wanted SpongeBob to do favors for them, but when they spotted him in the sky, they chased him down because they claimed he owes them favors. They really don't want him to fulfill his dream of flying with the jellyfish. Big f***s they are. They started chasing down SpongeBob, but he outflew them and almost made it to Jellyfish Fields. But Old Man Jenkins in a cannon shot SpongeBob out of the sky by popping his inflatable pants. SpongeBob crashed down to the ground, and everybody was so sad that they ruined SpongeBob's inflatable pants and left SpongeBob to not die. I know he's still alive, but how can this many people be that soulless that not a single one of them cares about a living being's death? SpongeBob accepted again that he may never fly, but the friendly, sympathetic jellyfish picked SpongeBob up and flew him home. On their way back, SpongeBob sang a song about no matter how much you may dream, your best friends are better than any of your wildest dreams. After SpongeBob got home, he thanked the jellyfish as they left. Patrick wanted to fly down to the pizza house for a slice, but SpongeBob declined the flying offer and Patrick flew away, to SpongeBob's denial at first and then shocked, and the SpongeBob portion of the episode ends.
Wow! Wasn't that great, kid?
Well, that's not the word I would use to describe it. Patchy lost the remote, but his neighbor Mrs. Jonathan returned it to him by throwing it through the window. Patchy struggled to rewind the tape, and a scuffle with Potty resulted activating the light switch button and the Mariachi band button. Why can't my remote do any of those things? Then the tape was ruined, making the lost episode lost forever, and the French narrator says that whether the show was lost or not, SpongeBob will always live on in our hearts and minds, says bye to the audience, and the whole episode ends. The lost episode will never truly be lost. So that was the Sponge Who Could Fly, and oh boy do I have an opinion for you. Let's start off with the SpongeBob parts. Now there are some highlights in the animated portions for sure. I like the running gag with Old Man Jenkins taking on 3 different professions, and he always says,
I knew no good would come from city folk and their flying machines.
I like the fact that SpongeBob's grandpa appears in a thought cloud, showing SpongeBob remembers him. Since he's a square sponge too, it really makes you think how his grandson was a square, but most of his children were sea sponges instead. I also like the gag with SpongeBob's grandpa in Patrick's thought cloud.
If we were meant to fly, hey, I'm not your grandfather.
I like how Patrick tried to help SpongeBob with his plans to help him fly, and how Gary tries to cheer SpongeBob up while he sat in the bathroom. The opening sequence where SpongeBob is jellyfishing and falls off a cliff is fun. I enjoyed seeing SpongeBob's various attempts to try and fly, even if none of them ended up working out at first. I like how Patrick thinks that the lawn chair with balloons was set up to have a birthday party.
Happy birthday to you!
And of course, the songs are the best part. I like all 3 of them. When I was younger, I downloaded the He's Flying song from the Yellow Album on iTunes, because I couldn't help myself. I also have When Worlds Collide from UGG, but I forget which one I downloaded first. But out of these 2, I think When Worlds Collide is the better one. And during junior year of high school, I listened to the I Wish I Could Fly song most often. It was only 30 seconds, sure, but it was on YouTube to watch at the time, and I watched it a lot during study hall. And nowadays, I think that might be my favorite out of all the songs in this episode. The ending song is beautiful and teaches a good lesson, but I don't have much to say about that one. I like that they mention Old Man Jenkins has a farm here, and interestingly enough, it becomes relevant again 15 years later in episode 462, Farmer Bob from season 12. I like how SpongeBob is written here. It's nice that he's determined to find a way to make his dreams a reality, and he gets pissed off when everybody's making fun of him and not just taking it like a wimp. And the lesson he learns at the end is nice, on how your best friends are more important in life than your wildest dreams, even if SpongeBob didn't know what that lesson was. And I think that's about it in terms of positives for this part of the episode, because there's a lot else here that I really don't enjoy. I loathe how all the various Bikini Bottomites treat SpongeBob here. They laugh at him for trying to make his dreams come true, and then want to kill him when they think he's the only one with unrealistic dreams.
Good riddance, dreamer!
And then when he does finally get his chance to fly, they don't receive any comeuppance for what they said to him, or feel remorse for being naysayers. And then when they start taking advantage of him to make him do things they don't want to do, SpongeBob was totally in the right to not want to do things for them. I mean, first they laugh at him, then they want to kill him, then they try to take advantage of him. What the f*** do you have against him today? This line here, in particular, I just can't stand.
No, he owes us favors.
No, SpongeBob doesn't owe any of you ungrateful fucks a single morsel. If anything, you owe him an apology for how you treated him earlier in the episode. And when they think he's dead, they take away his pants but leave SpongeBob laying in his underwear? Oh, okay, so SpongeBob doesn't want to, I don't know, set your dinner table for you. And when you think he's dead, you leave him there because you're upset he didn't do your f***ing chores for you? Could somebody please explain this logic to me? I hate the Bikini Bottomites so much in this episode. It's probably the most unlikable they've ever been in the series up to this point. Sure, there is episode 89, Merryman and Barnacle Boy 4 from season 3, where they do try to beat up SpongeBob's insides, but they have a reason to be angry, since SpongeBob shrunk everybody with Mermaid Man's belt because he was too worried about upsetting Mermaid Man about not returning it sooner. SpongeBob had comeuppance coming to an extent, since most of what he did could have been avoided if he had returned it sooner, or at the very least, he didn't shrink anybody else. And sure, episode 52, Grandma's Kisses from season 2, they do laugh at SpongeBob for having a loving grandma and getting a kiss from her. Yeah, that's uncalled for too, but laughing at him is the worst thing they do here. They don't try to chase him with pitchforks or try to stop him from fulfilling his dreams, or show no remorse when they think he's dead and only care that they destroyed his inflatable pants. Now sure, SpongeBob's friends asked him to do crap for them, but I can give them a pass because at least they're his friends that he knows personally, and they weren't a part of this scene when the other citizens laughed at him. But it is also ridiculous when Squidward, Mrs. Puff, and Larry chase after him at the end as a part of the unreasonable mob. And besides, this guy was the one who said SpongeBob owed them favors, not Larry the Lobster. If it was Mrs. Puff or Larry, then I probably wouldn't give SpongeBob's friends a pass at all. And I'd probably only like SpongeBob, Patrick, and Gary in this episode. And yeah, Squidward was part of the crowd who laughed at him in Grandma's Kisses, but I feel he would have done that regardless if anybody else did. And again, they just try to laugh at him, not kill him. So therefore, in this episode, the citizens are the worst they've been to SpongeBob at this point in the series. It would have been nicer if we actually did get to see SpongeBob flying with the jellyfish with his inflatable pants, finally getting to fulfill his dreams, but everybody keeps asking him for favors while he's actually at Jellyfish Fields flying. That wouldn't make their favorite demands any less stupid or unreasonable, but at least there'd be some payoff for SpongeBob getting the impromptu way of flying. I feel bad for SpongeBob when he gets ridiculed throughout, and when the Bikini Bottomites chase him because they hate him for no reason. Now, when all his other attempts to fly fail, I'm okay with that because if the plane part actually worked, the whole episode would have been wrapped up early on, and that would have been so much more boring. Now, I do get that not all dreams can come true, and this episode does teach that, which is fine, but it's executed in such a mean-spirited way that I wouldn't have thought that that was the moral. Also, real quick, before we move on to the patchy segments, here's a couple things I noticed here. When this guy says the worst line in the episode, he looks like Fred. Just purple instead of brown, and he has an outfit that looks like SpongeBob's normal clothes, but without the tie. This character, Susie Fish, has a pink dress in this episode, but normally she has a yellow dress. And this character, Dennis, he's brown here, but he bears a striking resemblance to this guy, who is a light green. I wonder if they're supposed to be the same, but they just changed them to be light brown in this episode. I wonder why they changed both of these details. The peanuts that SpongeBob holds in this shot are the same peanuts that this guy eats on the plane during the second musical number. Alright, now let's move on to the patchy segments. I honestly like the patchy segments this time. In my opinion, these are some of the more interesting patchy portions of any time he appears. I like the treasure hunt they go on to find the lost episode, and the various different locations he travels to. We get to see more of the world he lives in, and not just his house this time, or the 100 million years ago version of his house from Ugg. And I love how Patchy was so upset when he thought the lost episode was just the walk cycles. Now as a kid, I thought the walk cycles were a bit meh, and they went on for longer than they needed to. Nowadays, I learned that they're only 90 seconds long, which is shorter than I thought. I used to think they were like 2 minutes long, but the music was a little more generic than I remember. I can't hum it to myself like I can with Stadium Rave when SpongeBob dances with the jellyfish in episode 15, Jellyfish Jam from season 1. I get why the walk cycles are there. It's a fake out before we get to the real lost episode. And that makes sense, and it does make it a bit more memorable compared to just starting up the lost episode as soon as they put the tape in. I'm not sure what else they could have done during this part of the episode, but I don't know. If the walk cycles weren't here, I'm not sure I'd feel any differently. But we couldn't see Patchy be so betrayed at SpongeBob, so there's that. I love the sequence of Patchy wanting nothing to do with SpongeBob, and then when he rewinds his actions before watching the real lost episode. The Remembering SpongeBob montage is really nice too, and I really wish they would do that for a series finale of the main show. The banter between Patchy and Potty is pretty good too.
I never lose anything.
What about your leg?
Well, yeah, but...
And your hand?
No, get out of here, you blasted bird!
Patchy is such a mood in this episode, being upset when he lost the lost episode at the beginning, and then when he loses it in another way at the end, and his frustrations with the remote at the end.
I hate technology!
Same here, dude. I love the gag with the Mariachi band button on his remote, and the running gag where Mrs. Jonathan throws something through the window and it hits him in his face. I also really like these segments just because of how they claim the lost episode was lost by Patchy and he had to get it back. It's a little cheesy, but it's executed well in my opinion. And of course, Potty is just really funny.
Crack, failure ahoy! What a rip! Crack, that's the Mariachi band button.
And as relatable as Patchy is, when he says that SpongeBob betrayed us, it's actually Nickelodeon for making him think that the lost episode was just walk cycles. And at the end, the French narrator even says that SpongeBob will still live on in all our hearts, even without VHS tapes.
But tape or no tape, as long as there are stars in the sky, SpongeBob will live on in our hearts and in our minds.
So clearly, Nickelodeon never heard that line and are resorting to the worst method of getting SpongeBob to live on. Speaking of which, I have heard some people say that this was planned to be the final episode of the show before the SpongeBob SquarePants movie comes out. And to an extent, the Patchy stuff would be great for a series finale. The remembering SpongeBob portion, the ending where the French narrator gives a speech about SpongeBob living on in our hearts if the show ends, that makes sense to me. And I can kind of see how this would have been a final normal episode written before the movie. SpongeBob feels at his lowest point in the episodic show, and then he reaches his magnum opus in the movie when he says Bikini Bottom. But not only are there 2 more individual episodes left before this season after this one, but they aired this one in 2003, a year and a half before the movie, and some other episodes came out in between this one and the movie. Now sure, these episodes could have been written at any time, and Nickelodeon decided to put this one as number 59 instead of 60 when ordering the season. But if I'm being honest, I'd much rather take episode 117, Pranks a Lot, as the final normal episode before the movie.
I don't get it.
This one is so much more mean-spirited towards SpongeBob for no reason. And if there was no movie and this was the final episode of the main show, I would f***ing hate that this was the series finale in terms of episodes. But at least it's not, and our actual series finale is. Overall, this episode, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I don't really like half of what comes out in the SpongeBob segments, but the Patchy ones are better than most others in this season. I don't know if this will be a controversial opinion or not, and I don't know the general consensus of this one, but this is one of the weaker Season 3 episodes in my opinion. It does have some high points for sure, but the low points are some of the lowest points of the season in my opinion. Maybe not of the whole show, but definitely of the first 4 seasons. Maybe of the first 5 seasons even. I like the songs of the SpongeBob segments and almost everything about the Patchy segments, but the animated parts where SpongeBob isn't being ridiculed or doing ridiculous favors for anybody are rather average to me. And of course, I will never get over this guy saying that SpongeBob owes them favors despite him doing nothing wrong at all. That's one of the few lines of the entire series that just really gets me. This episode has a lot of potential, but it was bogged down by it being rather mean-spirited at times, and painting the incidentals of Bikini Bottom in such a new low point at this point that I just don't know what else can redeem them. The Patchy segments are more interesting than most of them in the show, and that does redeem this episode, but not enough to make it as enjoyable as some of the highs this season reaches. Damn, the 22-minute episodes this season were kind of weak. Episode 56, Christmas Who, from Season 2, was not only great, but I like that one more than all 3 of this season's double specials put together. I'm glad this wasn't the regular final episode, whether or not the series continued after this season and the movie. It would have been such a weak note to end the episodic series on. Oh, and another fun fact, if you look at the TV in this shot, you can see that it says this is episode 118. This is not true, and it's episode 115. But it would have been 118 if it was a random 11-minute B episode and we didn't have any more double specials after Christmas Who. But hey, at least SpongeBob learned how to fly in some way in this episode. That's more than we human beings can say about ourselves. The Sponge Who Could Fly is a meh episode in my opinion. The highs of this episode are great, but the lows are some of the lowest lows of any episode from the first 4 seasons in my opinion. I like the live action segments for the most part, and the songs in the animated segments are great. But overall, yeah, I don't think that I'm going to want to rewatch this one again anytime soon. But this is just my humble opinion, and I know that it's going to make some people out there upset. Oh no. I'd know that sound anywhere. That's a political debate! I gotta get out of here before they attack me! Oh, good. I lost the angry mob. Where am I now?